Welcome to Spotlight Santa Monica. I'm Sandy Jacobson. A lot of work goes into making our city such a desirable place to live. Today we're talking about important programs for kids, the city budget, and composting. The Police Activities League offers programs and activities to help youth develop skills that build self-esteem and encourage them to reach their full potential. Joining me now is Eula Fritz from PAL. Eula, it's nice to have you here.
It's so nice to be here. Thank you.
Okay, so why do you call this program the Police Activities League?
You know, we call it the Police Activities League because there's a police component. And so it's a safe place where parents can bring their kids and to interact with police officers. We actually have a police officer that is assigned to PAL. And so they're assigned to PAL to play with kids and run programs. So it's not like they have to be on patrol or do other things in the city, but they actually come to PAL, they're assigned to PAL, and they are assigned to be and play with kids.
So the kid gets to relate to the policeman in a very positive way.
Absolutely, and that's so important, you know, where the youth can actually bond and foster the trust with the police officer. And having that experience, you know, with a police officer in a positive level, you know, can hopefully definitely knock down any of those negative influences that are out there.
That those nasty old teenagers may be shooting.
Yeah, that peer pressure is a bugger.
So who participates in PAL?
Any youth that is ages 6 to 17 that either lives or goes to school in Santa Monica. And so even at 18 if they're still in high school.
How much does it cost to go to PAL?
It is absolutely free.
That was a setup, wasn't it? That was a softball question. I knew the answer. And what are the hours?
We are open the latest out of all the youth services program out there. We're open from 12 noon. Our PAL Youth Center is open from 12 noon to 10 o'clock p.m.
Wow.
And we actually, isn't a lot, I think the next question people always ask me, are kids really there that late? And yes, they are. We have to actually kind of shoo them out the door when we close the doors at 10.
Especially your teenage kids.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah, I've been to PAL a few times and I've seen how much fun they're all having. So how long has PAL actually been part of the city of Santa Monica?
PAL has been with the city for well over 20 years.
Wow.
And it first started at Virginia Avenue Park, and we were actually, when it did start there, we offered very minimal programs. It was boxing and karate. and so then we were fortunate to have our PAL Youth Center built in 1993. And so then with that center being built, we were able to offer more programs and expand to offer homework assistance and all the other great programs that we offer for kids to actually have another good place to stay.
So you're right here, right near Studio 16. You're around the corner on Olympic.
That's right.
Olympic and 18th?
Olympic and 14th, right on the corner.
Okay. Oh, you walked over.
And I did.
That's
I walked over
green.
here.
So you have just the one location?
We have two locations actually. So we have our what I would consider to be our headquarter facility on 14th and Olympic, which is our PAL Youth Center. And then we have our fitness gym that's located at Virginia Avenue Park. And that's in Park Center. We have two rooms where we have our karate and boxing programs. Actually, we even have a boxing ring there too.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
And you have adults supervising stuff all the time.
Well, here's the thing. Being that the Police Activities League is a city program, not only do we have the police officer that is assigned to PAL, but we also have city staff through our Community and Cultural Services Department. And so PAL is a hybrid, if you will, of a city/nonprofit. So we have the city pays for the overhead of both facilities. That's the lighting, the infrastructure, the buildings, and it also pays for the salaries of the staff. So myself, I'm with the Community and Cultural Services Department, and I have a bunch of staff that report to me. And then we have the police officer. So all of us are paid through the city. There is a nonprofit PAL board of directors that fundraises to help with the programs. So anytime that anyone donates to PAL, it doesn't have to go to like a typical nonprofit that there are salaries and there are all these expenses and overhead. those donations do not have to pay for those. The donations that are given to PAL strictly go to the programs. So people know exactly where their money goes. It goes right to the kids.
So you mentioned some of the programs like homework help, and that's probably for all the ages, and boxing maybe for the bigger kids?
Oh, we have boxing for all ages. So we start with beginning boxing, beginning karate, up through black belts. So
and what other programs do you have, like especially for teenagers? Because they're the hardest, it would seem, to hold on to.
Oh my goodness, yes they are. Teenagers are so difficult. Don't tell anybody I said that. But we have SAT classes. So with our SAT classes, and like I said, I mentioned again, our programs are free. And SAT help for those that are college bound, that's crucial and important, and we want our kids to be exposed to colleges. So we do free SAT classes and ACT classes, and it's a whole series of them. So it's just not one workshop, it's a series of classes. We do college tours. We have a Friday night program where kids can actually be with our staff and actually go out in a supervised teen activity, because we know that kids don't have to actually go looking for trouble. You know,
right to
sometimes
them.
the trouble will come right to them.
Right.
And so this way you're keeping kids engaged in a structured activity on a Friday night, which we know sometimes that's the Friday night is that itching hour because they don't have school the next day, so they want to hang out. And this way they can hang out with a staff person and engage into, like, may go to like movie screenings or ice skating. They'll do bowling. They do all these type of fun activities, but they're supervised with our staff. And we also have our Youth Leadership Council. And our Youth Leadership Council is a teen leadership group, which actually they do a minimum of 100 hours of community service. And they actually go to some awesome events here in the city, and they'll do setup of the Santa Monica Festival. They've done years ago the Taste of Santa Monica. They do the chamber dinner installation every year. They work the silent auction. They help us with our events in the city, of our Halloween carnival, as well as our golf and tennis. They help us with everything, and so they're renowned in the city. A lot of the other events, they've done the Buy Local program. So they do all these things, and even things that I have to pay a lot of money to get to sometimes, they get in for free. And a lot of folks will call like, oh my gosh, we really need your kids to help us out, and they love it. And it's a good face for us out there in the community.
You mentioned how you help kids do college tours and all of that. In the minute we have left, talk a little bit about that you actually offer scholarships too.
One awesome thing that what we do is we offer scholarships to juniors and seniors that are in high school, and it's a need-based scholarship. And there's a certain criteria that they would have to meet, and this is done through our board of directors, and it's our Chris Carey Powell Education scholarships. And just last week, we just gave $28,000 to 12 kids.
Oh my God!
And yeah, so we had a great dinner, and these kids, a lot of them are excellent students. One of them has like a 4.0, and they've done amount of community service, and it's just well deserved for many of them, which a lot of them are first generation going to college, and so this kind of helps even the playing field, give them some starting cash as they go on.
That's wonderful, Eula. The program is wonderful, and thank you so much for being such a great guest.
Oh, thank you so much for having me again. This is awesome. Thank you for your time.
I love talking about PAL.
Me too.
Okay. For more information, please visit smpal.org. Up next, ever wonder about the process of adopting a city budget? You'll get the details.
Good morning, sunshine.
If he were, he'd tell you, right? You're too healthy to be. He didn't look sick.
What if you weren't safe every time? What if he's sleeping with his ex? What if it broke? If you are HIV positive, what happens next?
You don't have to live with Mr. Doubt. Common Ground offers free testing and care for HIV and STDs, including hepatitis. Just stop by or call us.
It's time you know.
Experience Highways Performance Space and Gallery.
I knew my journey would lead me to a place
where I'd find a highway that I could travel to the beat of my own drum. Ride out the storm, 95 Joey died, but Deadly was born. And there would be no limits to the vibrancy of my performance.
Join us each week at Highways Performance Space and Gallery and live without limits. Log on to highwaysperformance.org.
We are talking money. Joining me now is Finance Director Gigi Decavales. Gigi, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So tell us about the city budget that you presented in late spring.
Well, we came to council with a very healthy budget that includes many services for the community. The total budget is about $572 million, and the general fund portion, which is pretty much our shared services that the community shares, is about $378 million. Or I'm sorry, $328 million.
That's a lot.
It is.
What's a biennial budget?
A biennial budget is a 2-year budget, and we started biennial budgets about 3 years ago. The council decided to adopt 2 years of budgets at a time. This is a best practice that cities use because it allows people a little bit more time in the off years to work on other budgets, and it also has been known to keep costs down from one year to the next.
And people can plan ahead a little bit?
Absolutely.
Now, so that $572 million figure, is that for 2 years?
That is for 1 year.
For 1 year.
Yes. We still have to come back to council every year for the council to adopt the coming year's budget. We just planned for the 2 years.
Oh, you just planned for it.
Yes.
So how do things look for Santa Monica financially at this point?
Well, over the next year, the budget that we just approved is a solid budget. Our revenues are exceeding expenditures and covering our expenditures. In the coming years, what we do every year with our budget, we also do a 5-year forecast, and we look ahead 5 years to see how our expenditures are faring in terms of the money that's coming in to cover them. And over the next, starting next year, we are seeing a potential deficit where our expenditures are a little higher than our revenues. And what we end up doing, though, is with the expenditure, the deficits, we are able to adjust our budget accordingly in future years. But
You mean trim some departments,
yes,
et cetera?
yes, or take a look and see if we can have any returns on investments, some investments that will offer savings later.
Is the general fund money usually mainly from sales tax and property taxes?
About 2/3 of the general fund money comes from taxes, and it's property taxes, hotel taxes, sales taxes, several other business license taxes, several other taxes. The remaining third comes from fees and permits, and in some cases fines.
So there's a deficit. Is it because the taxes revenues haven't been up high enough, or people haven't been committing enough felonies to pay crime for deficits for penalties?
No, well, the reason why we are anticipating deficits, is basically something that's happening throughout the country. Rising costs of health care, the rising cost of retirement, and the contributions that we need to make. And also something that happened over the past couple years was the dissolution of redevelopment, which was a large funding source that we used to get or have access to, and we don't have that anymore.
That's from the state, isn't it?
That's from the, yes.
I mean, it's Santa Monica money that goes to the state that they used to give back.
Exactly.
Is that correct?
Exactly.
Yeah. And
It's
they don't give
property
it back
taxes.
anymore, they just keep it.
That's right. Well, yes, we have to go through a very long process to see what we can get back, and we don't get back as much as we used to.
So despite all of this, Santa Monica's managed to have a strong budget each year. What steps do you take to get there, to get to that strong budget?
Well, as I mentioned, we have this 5-year forecast, and we look and see what we can do. Some of the things that we've done is last year we shifted our budget through cuts or tried to increase our cost recovery on permits and fees by about 5%. We've also been able to pay down our retirement unfunded liability, which we're one of very few cities that is able to pay down in advance.
What does that mean exactly?
That means it's almost like paying down your mortgage, so that you can lower the cost. You basically lower your principal. And so your interest is lower, and so we are paying down costs that we didn't have, that we are able to control our costs later on. We also have our employees are contributing to both their retirement contributions and their healthcare contributions. All employees in the city are doing that, so everyone's sharing.
Has it always been that way, or is that a newer?
It's newer. It's been happening for some employees for several years, others more recent, and others even more, it's been phasing in over the past few years, even more. And so we've also been taking aside reserve. If we have any savings, we have increased our reserves to make sure that we can fare well if we have another downturn.
Another downturn, or if there's some natural disaster, that would call on the city budget too?
It could call on the city budget.
So you really have to be thinking ahead.
Absolutely. We're always thinking ahead.
How do you make those decisions? How does it decided? How you plan and how much the public gets and all of that?
Well, we have a process that we follow every year in creating the budget. First, we assess, we look at our community priorities, and we take a look and see how our community feels about how the budget is going, how the city is going, and what needs they have. And we have actually a set about 10 emerging trends that we have put together that are in the budget this year that the community can look at. And this is what we've seen from several different connections that we've made to community members.
Can you give us a few examples of those 10?
Well, I can tell you parking and circulation is one of them.
Now, when you say parking, that's a source of revenue, isn't it?
It is.
So that's one of the situations that you get to plan on.
Well, yes. The reason why the community is looking at parking is the lack of parking.
Oh, okay, okay.
And traffic, and the increase in traffic, or the large amount of traffic that goes on there. So this is something that our city is looking at to see what we can do about it. Sustainability is another one. There are several different ones.
So how does the public get involved with this?
So at that point, once we actually look at the community priorities, we assess to see how our resources are coming through, and what resources we have, how we can actually allocate them to make sure that we can get to the priorities. And finally, we come to the council with an adjustment of the budget. And the council, once we get to council, the public can take a look at the budget that we have, our proposed budget. They can provide feedback to council, and the council does accept that feedback. And when they come back, we come first in May. The council comes again in June, having heard some community feedback, and there's also a public hearing in June. They make adjustments to the budget, and then it keeps going and they adopt it.
So is there material that the public can look at?
Absolutely. We have our budget on our website, smgov.net, and the budget is also included in our libraries and at the city clerk's office.
So how active does the public get? I mean, are they very involved in the details?
Santa Monica's community is a very engaged community, and we appreciate that. It is something that we know that when we put forth a budget, that we have heard our community, because they do get involved quite a bit.
Thank you so much, Gigi, for explaining something that is a pretty complicated thing, and you're talking about some big numbers there.
Yes, we are.
Well, I thank you very much for explaining that to us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
For more, please visit smgov.net/finance. Up next, our city is striving towards zero waste. Find out what role worms play in that. Stay tuned.
Discover 30 years of opera in Santa Monica. Discover the Verdi Chorus.
Riding a bicycle can seem like child's play.
But only if you're playing indoors.
breathing in the real street has real consequences.
Play it safe. Ride by the rules. Cars and bikes need to play together.
Composting can help reduce waste and make your garden grow. Joining me now is Kim Braun, Resource Recovery and Recycling Manager. It's a big title, Kim.
It is.
Thank you for joining us. Is there a difference between what can go into the curbside green cart and what can be composted in the backyard?
Yes, there is, absolutely. When you compost in the backyard, we want you to keep your composted material to more of the fruits and vegetables, and don't include any meat or bones or dairy type of products, because it's not as hot. The material doesn't get as hot, so it's harder to compost those things, and it also will attract some vermin. I know, but in our green can, we take it to a special processing facility, and there's two types of processing technologies that go on there. One of which is the material's dropped and it's turned and turned and turned at high temperatures, and the other one is a digester where it's put inside a box and it heats up to incredible amounts of temperature so that everything decomposes quickly, like within 15 days.
The boxes are heated and the churner is heated.
Yes.
You're not just waiting for the material
Right,
to heat
so
up.
in your green container, you could put in your meat products and your bones and your dairy products and your eggshells, etc.
Now, when you talk about our green container, you're not just talking about the big curbside thing, are you? Is there a special compost container?
Well, we do have composting containers that we can sell to our residents, and there's two types. There's a regular composter for your fruits and vegetables, and we also have a worm composter that we highly recommend for the multi-family residents in the city. And then, of course, there is the giant green container that you put out weekly for us to collect.
Where do you get the worms? Do you give them to us?
No, the worms are sold at two different locations here in Santa Monica.
You don't have to dig them up?
No, you don't.
How about if I live in an apartment? Can I still compost?
Yes, you can, and as I said before, it's highly recommended that you get a worm composter because the worms eat all of the vegetables that you put in there so that they dissolve quickly, and you get nice fresh compost for potted plants that you would have maybe out on your patio or on your balcony.
So you're assuming that more people will be using it. That's why the worms are more important, because more people are using it, so there's more trash. Well, we won't call it trash.
No,
what do we refer to it as?
We call it organics waste.
Organics waste, yeah, that sounds a lot better than trash. How about restaurants? It would seem to me that they have a lot of that organics waste.
They do.
Do they participate in the program?
Yes. Currently we have over 150 restaurants in the city of Santa Monica that participate in our organics program, and their participation consists of their food waste materials, either pre-consumer or post-consumer, and we pick up all that food waste and we deliver it to our compost site up in Oxnard, California.
Now, why can't that go into the city's compost?
Well, it is the city's compost program, but because the restaurants mostly have food, we don't give them a green container. We give them a regular dumpster.
Because they would have meat and stuff like that in there, because they're just scraping it all off. Other than food, can I put like paper products, like dirty napkins and things like that?
Absolutely, because it's all compostable material. So anything that's a paper product, like cardboard from your pizza boxes, paper towels, napkins, paper plates, anything that's almost 100% paper product, you can also put in your green can, and it will go up to the composting facility and eventually decompose, and then we give that material back to you as compost on a quarterly basis.
No, it's not my own compost material.
Right.
It's a shared thing.
It sure is.
So do you expect the resident to bring it to you, the compost material, or do you pick up at curbside?
We pick it up curbside.
So you leave out your green can that your can is green.
Yes.
And we're not talking about the big green trash can. We're talking about a small compost can.
No, these are the big green trash cans.
So we dump it in there afterwards?
You could dump it in there, yes. We'll pick it up. Then we take it to our compost facility up in Oxnard. And once it's decomposed, it comes back to us on a quarterly basis, and residents are willing to attend to come for free compost.
What do they bring? Do they bring a container to pick it up?
They can bring their containers, or we provide these burlap bags from a coffee mill. They were donated to us, and each resident can get 5 of those filled with compost. Our next compost day is this Saturday, June 7th, at the Santa Monica City Yards.
Well, this show will be shown other times. How often, how frequently do you have those?
We have them quarterly.
Quarterly, okay. So now, when you pick up that compost, is it smelly?
If it wasn't in the green container, it would be in your black trash can. So if your black trash can's smelly, well, I guess your green container would be
what I
smelly.
mean when you pick up the compost from the city.
Oh, no.
It's not smelly at all?
No.
So what do you suggest people do with their compost material? If one isn't already a composter, what are the benefits?
Okay, the benefits of composting in your house or in your apartment is that you're providing nice, rich nutrients for your potted plants in your multifamily residence or for your garden in your backyard.
So going back to the green cans that the city provides, how much do they cost?
Oh, the composters range. There's different prices for them. If you go on our webpage at www.r3sm.gov, you will get the different fees because of the different styles of composters.
Some of them are fancier than others, or is it size?
It's size and the type. The worm composter is a little bit more expensive than the regular composter. And then we have kitchen pails. So if you don't want to compost at your own residence, you can chop up your food, put it in this little kitchen pail at your sink, and then take it out to your large green container in the alley or at the curb for us to collect.
Everything in the green container, now we're talking about the big
The
trash,
big one, yes.
is compostable.
Yes.
And the city composts it all the time.
We do.
That's a wonderful project. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
explaining it, Kim. I appreciate it.
Okay.
For more information, I'll repeat the number Kim just gave us. It's smgov.net/R3. Thank you so much for joining us for Spotlight Santa Monica. Join us next time for more of the people and departments that make Santa Monica such an amazing place to live.